Welcome to the Mental Vet Investing Podcast with your host, Mike, where I talk about investing strategies with a frugal foundation from a veteran's perspective, and to invest in self-mental awareness to ultimately become free of bad money habits and stay financially independent. Episode 2. Does it pay to be frugal? Well, good question. And I hope by the end of this week's discussion, you'll be able to answer that for yourself. When I talk about frugality, really what I'm saying is creating or living a foundation of what allows me to invest in my future self, and then really I can tie that into both my main topics of financial freedom of bad habits and also mental living, and I'll break that down. But right away, being frugal is really the foundation. What I mean by that is, it's what helps me provide the tools to invest. And so what is frugality? It's living below your means. It's being able to stay at a lower expense rate than what your income is. So that could be doing side hustles. That could be maybe you're working in a job where you can get an annual increase in pay. It could be maybe just cutting out expenses, even though you're not getting any increase of pay. And by cutting out some of your monthly expenses, that automatically gives you a pay increase. So I'm going to kind of break some of these things down. Living below your means for me was, as being in the military. And if you want to know more about my background, please hit up my first episode. That was my introduction. You can get kind of a background of where I'm coming from. But being in the military, when I started making rank and started getting financially smart, and unfortunately for me, it was towards the end of my career, but I just kept my expenses at where they were at, and I started to learn how to reduce a lot of stuff. But my pay increase was going up, and I was able to quickly start seeing the money grow in a savings. And then that in itself is very powerful. If for me, that is what clicked and got me to latch on to the idea of frugality, because I saw my increase of money start to build slowly. It's nothing overnight. It's months, right? But once you build your mindset into that monthly habit of living your best frugal way you can do it, your life, you'll start to see those savings, and then you'll start to see the power of it. And then the second piece is, once I had that under control, investing that money, because now that you've broke your mind from keeping up with the Jones, or keeping up with the latest and greatest gadgets, you broke your mindset of that. You start to build new habits where you're always looking for the best frugal way to do things. And so I'll kind of break that down. But there's really one key piece to this. And hopefully if I can explain this, but it's all about, your own self, knowing really who you are. Are you that person that has to keep up with the neighbors? Do you have to have the latest and greatest iPhone? Are you buying shoes every 2 months, 3 months, or whatever? Are you buying that flat screen TV because the neighbor across the street has it in the garage and they're blasting the NFL games every weekend? Or are you buying the latest and greatest purse, or the makeup or whatever have you? These things, do they make you happy? Right? Is that what you live your life to be, is to have the greatest things? Because for some people, it's never going to be something they can just let go. They're never going to figure out that there's a better way to save money. And if that is your best way, if that life makes you happy, then, really, I guess you are living your best frugal life that you can. But basically what this episode is to tell you, not really. So I'll just I'll start off with a couple of ideas. So some of the things that I do, right, is, for example, shopping. Before I had gotten married, and really when I got married is when we really started to become more frugal. But when I first got married, it would be typical for me to take a credit card. I had a Visa card, and I'd buy groceries with that. And because I never had cash, I never had enough money to pull any cash out, living month to month when I was in the Navy. So I rented the most expensive, probably house I could find at the time, and I had my insurance bills and all that other stuff. And I guess it's, I never had a budget. I never lived by a budget. So I'd use that credit card and I'd buy groceries. And then I think I pulled cash out on it. So the credit card at that time was like 18% interest, which I would use on a weekly basis. And I would usually shop at, if it was groceries, it would be the main brand grocery stores, which here would be, could be Albertsons or Stater Brothers, or, basically the main food chains. And I would spend typically $200 to $300, maybe up almost close to $300 a week just on myself. In what I was buying was expensive items, canned food, boxed foods. So when we first started to look at that, I initially stopped doing that, and I started budgeting. It's probably one of the first things we did. We said, we looked at what we were spending, and we said, okay, this has got to stop. So I took that, and we initially got that credit card switched over to a 0% credit card, and then I started paying that down, keeping the same payments. So because I was keeping that same payment on a new credit card with that loan, it forced us to look at shopping in a different way. And like I said, what helped me was my wife was definitely more conservative with her money. So she already knew, why are we shopping here? We can shop at another off-brand market. And in our case, it's basically a Mexican market, meat market. And you can still find the same products. So my wife is Hispanic, so we obviously go and buy all the meats and tortillas and all that stuff. But then you can also get other items like granola bars and just other packaged items at relatively a more cheaper price. So we started doing that. And I remember the first time I went shopping with her. Now, this is probably this is prior to when we had kids, but I'll just bring it to now. We're with my two kids. We still do the shopping. I've been married for over 11 years now. So when we shop at that same, Mexican meat market, we'll typically spend usually we average about $60, and that's buying our any meat products that we'll break down throughout the week and make soups and different things like that. And then we also have the apple sauces and all the snacks for the kids. So for a family of four, we'll spend there around, altogether about $100, right? Usually about 100. I'm always right at or just under $100. And this varies between two main stores that we go to. Now, that's just for all the food items. And then what we'll do is either my wife or myself will hit up the dollar store. Sometimes it's on a weekly basis. Sometimes it's not. Just depends on how fast we go through our perishable items. So with that, it's toilet paper, it's paper towels, it's paper plates, zip bags, all those non-perishable items we buy at the dollar store. And that'll usually run us about $50 or less, but usually $50. So we average on a monthly basis, probably about right around, $400, maybe $300 to $400 a month. Sometimes more, sometimes less, just depending on if there's a birthday party or if there's some event that we're going to buy more stuff our ketchups and our, condiments, we buy at the dollar store. So I went from spending $200 a week to almost $200 to $300 a month from one person to a family of 4. So right off the bat, that was savings that I was able to see. And when you see that, it's like a light bulb going on. It's like you just flip the lights on. Well, for me, and you start to say, wow, and it's not easy to do as it is to say, because it is a little bit of more work. A lot of folks will just say, well, I just like to go to a Walmart type of store, or where you can get everything under one roof. And what I found when I did that is I would most often than not buy more items than I needed. When I went to Walmart, then I was buying more junk food, more snacks, more treats, whereas really honing in and forcing ourselves to come up with a system. And I go and do the groceries, or my wife will go do the groceries, and then I go to the dollar store and get the non-perishable items, And so that is one of the big things that we started doing. And that's what started the mind shift and the mindset. Another huge one is cutting the cable. It is just the best thing I ever did. And I was furious because I've had a cable company, and we used to pay, it used to start off with $80 a month for basic internet and your cable channels. And then I would say through a 5 to 6 year period, it just kept increasing. After the increasing, you try to negotiate your contract with them, and they just stopped doing it after time. So it ended up being where we were paying almost $150 a month on just basic cable channels. We weren't even getting anything special. And we did this probably 5 years ago. It was when I always wanted to get rid of them, but we were looking at alternatives like dish networks and things like that. We just got rid of them. With the new age of streaming, you can get what you want by streaming stuff online. And now we're actually at the point where I hardly, we don't even have TV anymore. We just stream what we want to watch. Netflix. I have a few news programs that I watch to keep up with news, and that's it. The only thing we're paying is an internet bill. Everything else comes with that, and so that was another key thing. And then eliminating those subscriptions. Like I said, I have a Netflix subscription, and then we also have Amazon. And you can argue that, those are maybe too much. But this is, as I mentioned in the beginning of this podcast, this is where our happiness comes in. We utilize the Amazon mainly because of the shipping. You get the free shipping when you get Prime. And it's something that we utilize, and it's something that we like. So for us, it's worth the spending, right? It's part of our happiness. But we're still minimal. I don't have anything more than that. But yet that service, such as Amazon, provides many different things. We can purchase items on their free delivery, and then still have the use of watching movies or catching up on shows that we may like. So, but there's other things you can do, maybe. So when looking at the monthly expenses is the key thing when we're trying to build up our frugal mindset. And each one of those things that I did, cutting the cable, changing my way of shopping for food. Another example is buying clothes. We go to the dollar stores. You'll be amazed what you can find at a dollar store. Maybe some name brand you might recognize is Goodwill, right? And I never did that, ever. And I remember the first time we decided to do that, I think when our son was born, we were finding clothes that were almost brand new, if not brand new. You just got to go in and search. You got to look through those clothes. You got to slide those hangers, and you'll find them. You'll find name brands. I found an Under Armour set that I paid $5 for, So, and then when you start to see that, you start to look towards doing that in the future. Like, now after you've seen that savings you keep. Another example is shopping at a Kohl's. I don't know if you have a Kohl's where you're at, but they used to, and I think they still do. They always have these discounts. You buy 5 pairs of clothes, and then you can take a 20% coupon and deduct all that. And I remember when we did a Christmas shopping one year, buying for our kids and then the nephews and cousins and all that. We came out with 2 or 3 bags full of clothes, and I think we spent no more than $50. I mean, it blew my mind. And I remember telling my wife, how in the hell are we doing? How did we just walk out of this store with 5 bags of clothes and we only paid $50? It's insane. But she goes, yeah, they just have these coupons, and you do it this way, and you do it on the sales, and you buy the discounted items. So that then turns you to shopping more and more like that, And I remember the one time I went back to a Walmart or a name brand store, and I had to buy a few items like razor shaving blades or whatever. And I remember thinking, man, that's crazy. I'm spending $30-$40 just on this razor. And I said, yeah, I'm not going to Walmart again. And I'll be honest, I hate going there. It's always insane. So now that you've shifted your mindset to that, it will always become the new normal. And then you break away from not really caring about what so-and-so thinks or whatever stigma is attached to what you're doing, whether you're going to that dollar store. One of the things is that, oh, everything's so cheap there. How can you shop there when your paper plates break apart? No, they don't, and honestly, once we've eaten our food, I mean, if you've seen kids eat, they just destroy it. So why would you buy a package of 12 plates that cost you $10 when you can get the same package of plates, maybe 6 plates, and it's $3 or $1.99, and you buy 2 of them? It's that type of thinking. So we're going to go ahead and take a break. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the like button and subscribe, as I will post these weekly. I also have this on YouTube, so you can check it out there. And if you're watching it on YouTube, come check out my link below to my podcast. And after the brief message, I'll talk about reinvesting this new frugal mindset that you've just developed, and to how to start making that money right after this message. All right, welcome back. So to continue the discussion here, I wanted to now talk about what do we do with this new frugal foundation mindset we have. And I wanted to touch on a couple things real quick before that. Some other ideas, right? And so I'm a family of 4, and you might be thinking to yourself, is this guy off his rocker? I mean, what the hell is he thinking? You can't live like that with a family of 4. My kids always have to be entertained. They always have to be, And so I'm just going to throw a few things out there that we do. Obviously being a veteran, there's benefits we're able to utilize. One of the biggest ones that I utilize, and we used to utilize quite often before the pandemic hit, but you can go to a lot of parks, state parks, federal parks for free, right? If you're familiar with the San Diego area, there's a beautiful park, the Cabrillo National Monument, the lighthouse in Point Loma. Veterans get discounts there. Now, it's not completely free, but you're definitely getting a reduced price. This is one example. And what we did is we would make that a daily event, because at that particular location, you have the lighthouse, and then on the other side, you have these sea, what do they call them? The side of the cliff where you go and look at the tide pools. And my kids loved that. You go out there and you look at the tide pools, and you have fun. You're doing little hikes, and you get an exercise at the same time. And then what we would do after that is you would leave and have a dinner. Well, whether you like it or hate it, Denny's at that time, on I believe it was Saturdays, would have free meals for kids. And these meals were not bad. They get a hamburger with a side of maybe apple slices, and then a salad, and then free refills. And so we would typically spend about, I think it was probably close to $25, maybe 30, depending on what I would get. Sometimes I would get a chicken sandwich or whatever. But roughly 30, I would say 30, maybe $35 totally max. for a dinner for a family of 4. And that would be our weekend family trip. So that's one example. So what you got to do is you got to go to the VA websites and you got to look at what parks you can put in the Google search, state parks, federal parks close to me, and start looking. We found several different things like that. Just Google searching. We found another trail that was a wonderful trail along the coast of San Diego that we did another weekend. But same thing. We picked the day that the discount was there for the dinner, and we made it a family trip. And the kids love it. They just absolutely love it. SeaWorld, big. Hopefully you guys know of SeaWorld. Once a year you can get in free as a veteran. And then I believe the kids and family members are reduced quite significantly. I think one year I even got two tickets free and then 2 at a discount. And then obviously when your kids are young, you know, a lot of the times you don't have to pay until they get age 6 or age 7 or whatever it is. So there is absolutely plenty of ideas to do for a family to have fun and do things and not have to spend tons of money, hundreds of dollars of money, like doing a Disneyland trip. Now, this is where that happiness comes in. At some point, I will take my daughter to Disneyland because she's never been, and that's something we'll save for. It's not just going to be out of the blue thing. And then, of course, who the hell knows when that's ever going to open? Hopefully, they decide to open in California someday. Hopefully, when this pandemic is over, we can get back to doing things like that. And that, again, is, there are those cases where, hey, she loves Minnie Mouse. And, I'm not going to be the frugal dad and dress up as Minnie and say, hi, little girl, welcome to Disneyland, right? And you're in your backyard. No. There's the time and the place, and we will take her to Disneyland and we'll fork out that money, but we'll save it. We'll have it planned out. So that's one idea. But there's plenty of things to do. And the benefits of being a veteran will help. There's a lot of them out there for discounts and whatnot. And then another example I wanted to throw out there, utilizing, like we just had Christmas not too long ago. And, when you buy toys for kids, they just destroy them. I don't care how hard you try. They destroy these things. And, we got to the last couple of years, we just said, there's got to be another way. So we use these apps for buying things online. Facebook has the Facebook store or whatever they call that, where you can buy things from people. And then you have OfferUp. OfferUp, you can buy a lot of things. We utilize it very heavily because we're frugal people. So, we bought a couch, a brand new 2 couches that someone was getting rid of. We paid $40 for it, for two couches for a set. So I bought a Minnie Mouse Jeep for my daughter, an electric motor or electric Jeep, and little dirty, and it needed a new battery. $20, right? I picked it up for, and you can negotiate the prices. I think they were trying to sell it for $35, and I said, look, I'll come get it for $20 and I'll buy the battery. So I picked it up the Jeep, cleaned it, polished it for her, bought a new battery, and all together I think I paid probably $40 because the battery was like just under $20. So $40, and she loves that thing. Christmas, it was all dressed up, and she just went crazy over it, and still working. She's been using it almost every day. Just another example. Like I said, when you build this mindset, it's the only way you know how to live because you see the power that it brings. Okay. So what do we do now? All right, we're being frugal. What's the point of being frugal if I'm not going to use this money? Well, that's where, you start learning how to invest. Okay. Simple as that. And that could be a number of things. Do you want to take that money and invest into yourself personally? Taking the time to get help for a mental illness, let's say, taking the time to just do family events, part of reducing my stress. Because if you've heard my first podcast, you'll understand why I call it the mental vet investing. But I have a lot of anxiety issues. So to help maintain an even flow of that on a weekly basis, we do those trips out in town, take the kids and go to these parks and do that. So some of the money is used for that, just to simply have the money aside and not pull from my monthly expenses and take $40. And this week we're going to just go out and do something fun. Every now and then we would go hit up a movie theater before they all shut down. And so that's, you utilize that money. You can keep it in a separate account, which is what we did. We just made a new credit account and just had that separate. Or you invest it, you start to save and put down and start investing in real estate or stock market, but the key is you have that option now available to you, whereas before it never was there. And that's the main point of this week's podcast, is just to see that power of living that frugal life, changing your mindset, shifting your monthly habits into something that starts to build you a savings. But then what do you do with that savings? Because currently, we're in still the month of January 2021, and markets are doing great. The stock markets right now. But where's our inflation going? Where's that dollar amount value going to be headed towards as we continue to acquire more and more debt? So if you're just holding the cash, you're losing value daily, right? Savings accounts are crap right now. So really, it's where you start looking into that, but to have that option is the key piece. And that's the foundation I'm talking about. Once you establish that, and maybe for some folks, they don't want to invest. Hell, just, if you're able to cut your expenses down significantly to where you start looking like, man, shit, you know what? I don't have to work all that overtime anymore. Or maybe I don't even have to work anymore. I could just get these expenses down to so much where, for instance, if you're a retired vet, you can live off your retirement check. Holy shit. Who can believe that, right? Especially in California, of all places. So once we learn that, the power is phenomenal. So hopefully by listening to my podcast today, you start looking at what are some of the things you can do. And if you're interested and you want to exchange ideas or what you're doing, what frugal things are you doing, feel free to hit me up with a message on Anchor or send me an email, mentalvetinvest@gmail.com. Either way, I'll be more than happy to exchange some ideas. And there's so many other things to do. And I may even do a second show just on frugal tips and ideas and strategies, because really it's just the tip of the iceberg here, what I covered today, because my time is constrained, obviously. So I think we'll leave it at that. And next week we'll get into probably a little bit more frugality, and then also what you can start doing with some of that savings. And I might even start breaking into, rental properties and things like that. But I think I've covered everything, and as I look at my list here of items to cover, I just, creating a budget and sticking to that budget on a monthly basis is really the best starting point you can have. And then opening your mind to alternative ways to spend your money for things that you need. Cutting the monthly expenses on cable and other things that, if you really sit down and look at it, do you really need it? Right? So I hope this helped you guys, and I look forward to next week's podcast. Stay safe, everyone, and talk to you soon.